The San Francisco 49ers is an American football team located in the San Francisco Bay Area, California, USA that plays in the West Division of the National Football Conference in the National Football League. The team was founded in 1946 as a charter member of the All-America Football Conference and joined the NFL in 1949 after the two leagues merged. The team will play its home games at Levi Stadium beginning with the 2014 season. The 49ers are known for having one of the NFL's greatest dynasties, winning 5 Super Bowl championships in just 14 years, between 1981 and 1994, with 4 of those championships in the 1980s. The Super Bowl teams were led by Hall of Famers Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott, Steve Young, and coach Bill Walsh. With 5 Super Bowl wins, the 49ers are tied with rivals Dallas Cowboys for the second most Super Bowl wins. The 49ers won the most regular season NFL games in both the 1980s and 1990s. The name 49ers comes from the name given to the gold prospectors who arrived in Northern California around 1849 during the California Gold Rush. The name was suggested to reflect the voyagers who had rushed the west for gold. It is the only name the team has ever had, and the team has always been within the San Francisco Bay Area. The team is legally and corporately registered as the San Francisco 49ers, Limited, and is the oldest major professional sports team in California. The 49ers and Los Angeles Rams were cross-state rivals until 1995, when the Rams moved from Southern California to St. Louis, Missouri to become the current St. Louis Rams. Franchise history. 1946–78, early years, the San Francisco 49ers were the first Major League professional sports franchise based in San Francisco, and one of the first professional sports teams based on the West Coast of the United States. The team also became the first Big Four sport franchise to play in the Western United States. The Cleveland Rams moved to Los Angeles the same year, 1946. The first score in 49ers history came on an executed passing play. Quarterback Frankie Albert, a scrambling left-hander, tossed a 6-yard pass to halfback John Strzykowski, who tossed a lateral to Len Eshmont, who raced down the sideline toward the end zone for a play that covered 66 yards under the foggy afternoon skies of Kezar Stadium on September 8, 1946. In 1957, the 49ers enjoyed their first sustained success as members of the NFL. After losing the opening game of the season, the 49ers won their next 3 against the Rams, Bears, and Packers before returning home to Kezar Stadium for a game against the Chicago Bears on October 27, 1957. The 49ers fell behind the Bears 17-7. Tragically, 49ers owner Tony Morabito collapsed of a heart attack and died during the game. The 49ers players learned of his death at halftime when coach Frankie Albert was handed a note with 2 words, "Tony's gone." With tears running down their faces, and motivated to win for their departed owner, the 49ers scored 14 unanswered points to win the game, 21-17. Dickie Murgle's late-game interception in the end zone sealed the victory. After Tony's death, 49er ownership went to Victor Morabito and Tony's widow, Josephine V. Morabito. The 49ers special assistant to the Morabitos, Louis G. Spadaya, 1921-2013, was named general manager. On November 3, 1957, the 49ers hosted the Detroit Lions, a game which has gone down in local lore as featuring arguably the most memorable pass play in 49ers history. With 10 seconds remaining in the game, 49ers ball on the Lions 41, Detroit leading 31-28, Y.A. Tittle threw a desperation pass high in the air and into the end zone, where it was caught between 2 defenders by a high-leaping O.C. Owens. The pass became known as the alley-oop, which also became Owens' nickname. Interestingly, the 2 defenders covering Owens later became 49ers coaches, Jack Christiansen and Jim David. The 49ers ended that season with 3 straight victories and an 8-4 record, tying the Detroit Lions for the NFL Western Division title. The stage was set for a 1-game divisional playoff in San Francisco. The 49ers got off to a fast start, and in the third quarter led 27-7. The Lions, led by quarterback Tobin Rote, who earlier in the season had replaced an injured Bobby Lane, mounted one of the biggest comebacks in NFL history to defeat the 49ers, 31-27. Had they won the game, the 49ers would have hosted the NFL championship game the following weekend against the Cleveland Browns. As it happened, the Lions beat the Browns 59-14. The 49ers' famous million-dollar backfield during the 1950s consisted of 4 future Hall of Fame members, quarterback Y.A. Tittle and running backs John Henry Johnson, Hugh Mulhenny, and Joe Perry. They became the only full-house backfield inducted into the Hall of Fame. For most of the next 13 years the 49ers hovered around .490, except for 1963 and 1964 when they went to €12 and for €10 respectively. Key players for these 49ers included running back Ken Willard, quarterback John Brody, and offensive lineman Bruce Bosley. During this time the 49ers became the first NFL team to use the shotgun formation. It was named by the man who actually devised the formation, San Francisco 49ers coach Red Hickey, in 1960. The formation, where the quarterback lines up 7 yards behind the center, was designed to allow the quarterback extra time to throw. The formation was used for the first time in 1960 and enabled the 49ers to beat the Baltimore Colts, who were not familiar with the formation. In 1961, primarily using the shotgun, the 49ers got off to a fast 4-1 start, including 2 shutouts in back-to-back weeks. In their 6th game they faced the Chicago Bears, who by moving players closer to the line of scrimmage and rushing the quarterback, were able to defeat the shotgun and in fact shut out the 49ers, 31-0. Though the 49ers went only 3-5-1 the rest of the way, the shotgun eventually became a component of most teams' offenses and is a formation used by football teams at all levels. In 1962, the 49ers had a frustrating season as they won only 6 games that year. They won only 1 game at Keyser Stadium while on the road they won 5 of 7 games. After posting a losing record in 1963, Victor Mirabito died May 10, 1964, at age 45. The 1964 season was another lost campaign. According to the 1965 49ers yearbook the co-owners of the team were, Mrs. Josephine V. Mirabito Fox, Mrs. Jane Mirabito, Mrs. O. H. Yuntzman, Lawrence J. Purcell, Mrs. William O'Grady, Albert J. Ruffo, Franklin Mealy, Frankie Albert, Louis G. Spadaya and James Ginella. The 1965 49ers rebounded nicely to finish with a 7-6-1 record. They were led that year by John Brody, who after being plagued by injuries came back to become one of the NFL's best passers by throwing for 3,112 yards and 30 touchdowns. In 1966, the Mirabito widows named Lou Spadaya, team president. For the 1968 season, the 49ers hired Dick Nolan as their head coach, who had been Tom Landry's defensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys. Nolan's first 2 seasons with the 49ers had gone much the same as the previous decade, with the 49ers going 7-6-1 and 4-8-2. The 49ers started out the 1970 season 7-1-1, their only loss a 1-point defeat to Atlanta. After losses to Detroit and Los Angeles, the 49ers won their next 2 games before the season finale against the Oakland Raiders. Going into the game the 49ers had a half-game lead on the Rams and needed either a win or the Giants to defeat the Rams in their finale to give the 49ers their first ever divisional title. In the early game the Giants were crushed by the Rams 31-3, thus forcing the 49ers to win their game to clinch the division. In wet, rainy conditions in Oakland, the 49ers dominated the Raiders, 38-7, giving the 49ers their first divisional title, becoming champions of the NFC West. The 49ers won their divisional playoff game 17-14 against the defending conference champion Minnesota Vikings, thus setting up a matchup against the Dallas Cowboys for the NFC Championship. In the final home game for the 49ers at Kansas Stadium, the 49ers kept up with the Cowboys before losing 17-10, thus giving the Cowboys their first conference championship. The 49ers sent 5 players to the Pro Bowl that season, including MVP veteran quarterback John Brody, wide receiver Gene Washington, and linebacker Dave Wilcox. Nolan was also named NFL Coach of the Year for 1970. Following the 1970 season, the 49ers moved from Kansas Stadium to Candlestick Park. Despite being located on the outskirts of the city, Candlestick Park gave the 49ers a much more modern facility with more amenities that was easier for fans to access by highway. The 49ers won their second straight divisional title in 1971 with a 9-5 record. The 49ers again won their divisional playoff game, this time against the Washington Redskins by a 24-20 final score. This set up a rematch against the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship game, this time to be played in Dallas. Though the defense again held the Cowboys in check, the 49ers' offense was ineffective and the eventual Super Bowl champion Cowboys beat the 49ers again, 14-3. In 1971, 8 49ers made the Pro Bowl, including defensive back Jimmy Johnson and Gene Washington, both for the second year in a row, as well as defensive end Cedric Hardman, running back Vic Washington, and offensive lineman Forrest Blue. The 49ers won their third consecutive NFC West title in 1972 with 5 wins in their last 6 games, making them the only franchise to win their first 3 divisional titles after the 1970 AFL-NFL merger. Their opponents this time in the divisional playoffs were the Dallas Cowboys, making it the third consecutive year the teams faced each other in the playoffs. Vic Washington took the opening kickoff 97 yards for a score, and the 49ers took a 21-6 lead in the second quarter. After the 49ers took a 28-13 lead in the fourth quarter, Tom Landry sent quarterback Roger Staubach, who was backing up Craig Morton, into the game. Staubach quickly led the Cowboys on a drive to a field goal, bringing the score to within 28-16, and as the game wound down it appeared that this would be the last points the Cowboys would get. However, Dallas completed the comeback in the last 2 minutes. Just after the 2-minute warning, Staubach took just 4 plays to drive 55 yards in only 32 seconds, hitting Billy Parks on a 20-yard touchdown pass to bring the score to 28-23. Cowboys kicker Tony Fritsch then executed a successful onside kick that was recovered by Mel Renfro, giving the Cowboys the ball at midfield with 1:20 left on the clock. With the 49ers on the ropes, Staubach scrambled for 21 yards, then completed a 19-yard sideline pass to Billy Parks, who went out of bounds at the 10-yard line to stop the clock. He then completed the comeback with a 10-yard touchdown pass to Ron Sellers with only 52 seconds left, giving the Cowboys a dramatic 30-28 victory and sending the 49ers to yet another crashing playoff defeat. The 49ers' run at the top of the NFC West ended in 1973 with the 49ers falling to a 5-9 record, their worst since 1969. The team lost 6 of its last 8 games, including games to the also-ran New Orleans Saints and Detroit Lions. In the final season of his career, longtime 49ers quarterback John Brody split playing time with 2 other quarterbacks, most notably longtime backup Steve Spurrier. The team also suffered from not having a dominant running back, with Vic Washington leading the team with only 534 yards rushing. In 1974, the 49ers drafted Wilbur Jackson from the University of Alabama to be the team's primary back. Jackson enjoyed a fine rookie year, leading the 49ers with 705 yards rushing. He and fellow running back Larry Schreiber combined for over 1,300 yards rushing. With Steve Spurrier injured and missing nearly the entire year, the 49ers did not have a regular quarterback but did put together a respectable 6-8 record. Following the season, longtime tight end Ted Kollek left the 49ers to join the World Football League, then the Oakland Raiders upon the WFL's dissolution. The 49ers dropped back down to 5-9 in what would be Dick Nolan's final season as coach in 1975, losing their final 4 games of the season. Wilbur Jackson was hurt much of the year and Delvin Williams led the 49ers in rushing with 631 yards rushing. Following the 1975 season, the 49ers traded for New England Patriots quarterback Jim Plunkett, former Heisman Trophy winner from nearby Stanford University. Though Plunkett had shown promise with the Patriots, he had not won there and it was thought that he needed a change of scenery. Monty Clark was also brought on as 49ers head coach. The 49ers featured of the best running games in the NFL in 1976. Delvin Williams emerged as an elite back, gaining over 1,200 yards rushing and made the Pro Bowl. Wilbur Jackson also enjoyed a resurgence, rushing for 792 yards. Once again, Gene Washington was the team's leading receiver with 457 yards receiving and 6 scores. The 49ers started the season 6-1 for their best start since 1970. Most of the wins were against second-tier teams, although the 49ers did shut out the Rams 16-0 in Los Angeles on Monday Night Football. In that game the 49ers recorded 10 sacks, including 6 by Tommy Hart. However, the 49ers lost 4 games in a row, including 2 against divisional rivals Los Angeles and Atlanta that proved fatal to their playoff hopes. Louis G. Spadaya retired from the 49ers in 1977 upon the team's sale to the DeBartolo family. The team was sold to Edward J. DeBartolo Jr. in March 1977, and despite finishing the season with a winning record of 8-6, Clark was fired after just 1 season by newly hired general manager Joe Thomas, who oversaw the worst stretch of football in the team's history. Under coach Ken Mayer, the 49ers lost their first 5 games of the 1977 season, including being shut out twice. Though they won 5 of their next 6, they lost their last 3 games to finish the season 5-9. Playing in San Francisco did not revive Plunkett's career as he had another disappointing season, throwing only 9 touchdown passes. Bright spots for the 49ers included defensive lineman Tommy Hart and Cleveland Elam, who made the Pro Bowl, and running backs Wilbur Jackson and Delvin Williams, who combined for over 1,600 yards rushing. Gene Washington again led the team in receiving in 1977, his final year with the 49ers. The 1977 offseason was marked by a number of questionable moves by Joe Thomas that backfired badly. Thomas's big off-season acquisition was running back O.J. Simpson from the Buffalo Bills. As with Plunkett 2 years previously, it was thought that rescuing Simpson from a bad situation and bringing him to the West Coast where he had been raised would rejuvenate his career. To create playing time for Simpson, Thomas traded Delvin Williams to the Miami Dolphins for wide receiver Freddie Solomon. Thomas also released Jim Plunkett, giving up on him after 2 seasons. Finally, Thomas fired Mayer after only 1 season, and replaced him with Pete McCulley, his 3rd coach in 3 seasons. The 1978 season was a disaster for the 49ers, as they finished 2-14, their only wins coming against the Cincinnati Bengals and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Simpson indeed led the team in rushing, but with less than 600 yards. It became apparent that Simpson's knees and body were worn out, and he was near the end of his career. Wilbur Jackson also missed the entire season due to injury. Even worse for the franchise was that their first pick of the 1979 draft was traded to the Bills as part of the O.J. Simpson deal. Joe Thomas was fired following the season. Some of the key players that became part of the 49ers' stunning rise began their 49ers career in 1978. Rookie quarterback Steve DeBerg, Joe Montana's first mentor, was the 49ers' starting quarterback. Running back Paul Hofer and center guard Randy Cross also started with the 49ers in 1978. 1979-80, arrival of Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. The team was led in its turnaround from late 1970s doormat by new owner Edward J. DeBartolo Jr. and head coach Bill Walsh. The former head coach of Stanford University was known for stockpiling draft picks, making excellent draft selections, and patching roster holes by acquiring key free agents. Bill Walsh was hired to be the 49ers head coach in the 1978 offseason. Walsh was a disciple of Paul Brown, and served as Brown's offensive coordinator with the Cincinnati Bengals from 1968 to 1975. However, Brown did not appoint him as his successor upon his retirement, choosing another assistant, former 49ers center Bill Tiger Johnson. Desiring head coach experience, Walsh looked to Stanford University in 1977. He had had some success there before the 49ers tapped him to be their replacement. Walsh is given credit for popularizing the West Coast offense. The Bill Walsh offense was actually created and refined while he was an assistant coach with the Bengals. The offense utilizes a short, precise, timed passing game as a replacement augmentation of the running game. The offense is extremely difficult to defend against as it is content to consistently make 8-yard gains all the way down the field. Cardinals and San Diego Chargers during a period where it garnered the nickname Air Coryell. In Walsh's first draft, the 49ers had targeted Notre Dame quarterback Joe Montana as an early round pick. Montana had enjoyed a storied college career, leading the Fighting Irish to the 1977 national title and a number of dramatic comeback victories, the most stunning of all being his final game, at the 1979 Cotton Bowl Classic. Playing the University of Houston in an ice storm, and with Montana suffering from a bad flu, Notre Dame was down 34-10 in the third quarter. However, Montana led a magnificent rally that culminated with him throwing a touchdown pass on the game's final play to give Notre Dame the 35-34 win. Despite this, most scouts did not peg Montana as a top prospect. Although 6'2" inches and 190-200 lbs, Montana's arm strength was considered suspect, as was the consistency of his play. Though he did get credit for his moxie and intangibles, most thought of him as a system player surrounded by a great team. In the 1979 draft, the Dallas Cowboys were placed just ahead of the 49ers. The Cowboys' draft strategy through that time was to take the highest-ranked player on their draft board at the time of their selection, regardless of position. When the Cowboys' turn came up in the third round, the highest-rated player on their board was Montana. However, feeling that the quarterback position was in excellent long-term shape with Roger Staubach and Danny White, and desperately needing a tight end, the Cowboys went off their strategy and drafted Doug Cosby. The 49ers took Montana. The 49ers' other notable draft choice of the 1979 draft was wide receiver Dwight Clark in the 10th round. Walsh discovered the unheralded Clark while scouting quarterback Steve Fuller of Clemson University, as Clark ran routes for Fuller during Walsh's evaluation of the quarterback. Walsh's serendipitous discovery of Clark proved to be an early glimpse into the coach's keen eye for talent. As Walsh implemented his strategies and game plan, the 49ers had another year of losing, going to a 14. There were, however, a number of bright spots. Despite throwing more interceptions than touchdowns, Steve DeBerg blossomed under Walsh, throwing for over 3,600 yards and completing 60% of his passes. Freddie Solomon also had a good year, with over 800 yards receiving. The running game was patchwork, with Paul Hofer leading the team with 615 yards and O.J. Simpson, in his final season, rushing for only 460 yards and being sidelined with injuries. The 49ers got off to a strong start in 1980, winning their first 3 games of the season. However, the team, still maturing, lost their next 8 games in a row. Many of those games though were close, and the 49ers acquitted themselves well. During the season Walsh alternated DeBerg and Montana at quarterback. Though DeBerg had played well for the 49ers, Walsh felt the team's best chance to win in the long run was with Montana. He alternated the 2 QBs, giving Montana some experience while keeping opponents off guard. This strategy of alternating quarterbacks from game to game and during games is rare in football, although it had been employed by other successful teams in the past, specifically the Dallas Cowboys of the early 1970s who alternated Roger Staubach and Craig Morton, and the Los Angeles Rams of the early 1949s alternating Norm Van Brocklin and Bob Waterfield. In all DeBerg started 9 games, going for a 5 with 1,998 yards, 12 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. Montana started 7 games, going to a Euro 5 with 1,795 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 picks. Montana also had a better completion percentage at 64.6 to DeBerg's 57.9. The highlight of the 1980 season, and a sign of good things to come, came in Week 14. The 49ers trailed the New Orleans Saints, who at the time were winless at 0-13, 35-7 at halftime. However, led by Joe Montana, the 49ers made the greatest comeback in NFL history, coming back to tie the score in regulation and winning the game in overtime with a field goal by Ray Wersching to give the 49ers an incredible 38-35 victory. It was this game, which marked Montana's first big NFL comeback win, that won Montana the quarterback job full-time. A number of key players emerged for the 49ers in 1980. Among them were Dwight Clark, who led the 49ers with 82 receptions and just under 1,000 yards receiving, and running back Earl Cooper, who ran for over 700 yards. 1981-84, first 2 Super Bowls. With the offense playing well consistently, Walsh and the 49ers focused on overhauling the defense in 1981. Walsh took the highly unusual step of overhauling his entire secondary with rookies and untested players, bringing on board Ronnie Lott, Eric Wright and Carlton Williamson and giving Dwight Hicks a prominent role. He also acquired veteran linebacker Jack Axel Reynolds and veteran defensive lineman and sack specialist Fred Dean. These new additions, when added to existing defensive mainstays like Keena Turner, turned the 49ers into an offensively and defensively balanced, dominant team. After a 1-2 start, the 49ers won all but one of their remaining games to finish with a 13-3 record. Up to this point in time it was the team's best regular season win-loss record in its history. Dean made the Pro Bowl, as did Lott, and Hicks. Led by Montana, the unusual offense was centered around the short passing game, which Walsh used as ball control. Both Dwight Clark and Freddie Solomon had excellent years receiving. Clark as the possession receiver, and Solomon as more of a deep threat. The 49ers running game, however, was among the weakest in the league. Ricky Patton led the 49ers with only 543 yards rushing. The 49ers' most valuable running back, however, might have been Earl Cooper, whose strength was as a pass-catching back. The 49ers faced the New York Giants in the divisional playoffs and won, 38-24. This set up an NFC championship game matchup with the Dallas Cowboys, whom the 49ers historically could not beat during their playoff runs in the early 1970s. The 49ers played the Cowboys tough, but the Cowboys forced 6 turnovers and held the lead late. The 49ers were down 27-21 and on their own 11-yard line with 4:54 remaining. As Montana had done for Notre Dame and the 49ers so many times before, he led the 49ers on a sustained final 89-yard drive to the Cowboys' 6-yard line. On a 3rd and 3 play, with his primary receiver covered, Montana rolled right and threw the ball off balance to Dwight Clark in the end zone, who leapt up and caught the ball to tie the game at 27, with the extra point giving the 49ers the lead. Despite this, the Cowboys had one last chance to win. And indeed, on the first play of the next possession, Cowboys receiver Drew Pearson caught a pass from Danny White and got to midfield before he was pulled down by the jersey at the 49ers' 44-yard line by cornerback Eric Wright, saving a potential late touchdown. On the next play, White was sacked by Lawrence Pilmers and fumbled the ball, which was recovered by Jim Stuckey, giving the 49ers the win and a trip to their first ever Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals, who were also in their first Super Bowl. In Super Bowl 16 the 49ers took a 20-0 halftime lead and held on to win 26-21 behind kicker Ray Wersching's 4 field goals and a key defensive stand. Throughout the 81 season, the defense had been a significant reason for the team's success, despite residing in the shadow of the then innovative offense. Montana won MVP honors mostly on the strength of leading the 49ers on a 92-yard, 12-play drive culminating in a touchdown pass to Earl Cooper. Thus did the 49ers complete one of the most dramatic and complete turnarounds in NFL history, going from a 2-14 season followed by a 6-10 season to a Super Bowl championship. The 1982 season was a bad one for the 49ers, as they lost all 5 games at Candlestick Park en route to a 3-6 record in a strike-shortened season. This was the 49ers' last losing season for the next 17 years. Joe Montana was the one highlight, passing for 2,613 yards in just 9 games, highlighted by 5 straight games in which he broke the 300-yard barrier. In 1983, the 49ers won their final 3 games of the season, finishing with a 10-6 record and winning their second NFC Western Divisional title in 3 years. Leading the rebound was Joe Montana with another stellar season, passing for 3,910 yards and connecting on 26 touchdowns. In the NFC Divisional Playoffs, they hosted the Detroit Lions. The 49ers jumped out in front early and led 17-9 entering the fourth quarter, but the Lions roared back, scoring 2 touchdowns to take a 23-17 lead. However, Montana led a comeback, hitting wide receiver Freddie Solomon on a game-winning 14-yard touchdown pass with 2:00 left on the clock to put the 49ers ahead 24-23. The game ended when a potential game-winning FG attempt by Lions kicker Eddie Murray missed. The next week, the 49ers came back from a 21-0 deficit against the Washington Redskins in the NFC Championship game to tie the game, only to lose, after a questionable defensive holding call, 24-21 on a Mark Moseley field goal that sent the Redskins to Super Bowl 18. In 1984, the 49ers had one of the greatest seasons in team history by finishing the regular season 15-1-0, setting the record for most regular season wins that was later equaled by the 1985 Chicago Bears, the 1998 Minnesota Vikings, the 2004 Pittsburgh Steelers, and finally broken by the 2007 New England Patriots. Their 18 wins overall is also still a record, tied by the 1985 Bears and the 2007 New England Patriots. The 49ers' only defeat in the 1984 season was a 20-17 loss to the Steelers. A late field goal attempt in that game by San Francisco kicker Ray Wersching went off the uprights and was no good. In the playoffs, they beat the New York Giants 21-10, shut out the Chicago Bears 23-0 in the NFC Championship, and in Super Bowl 19 the 49ers shut down a record-setting year by NFL MVP Dan Marino, beating the Miami Dolphins 38-16. Their entire defensive backfield was elected to the Pro Bowl and NFL First. 1985-87, arrival of Jerry Rice. In the 1985 NFL Draft, the team received the 28th overall pick after winning the Super Bowl the previous year. On draft day, the 49ers traded its first 2 picks for New England's first-round choice, the 16th selection overall, and selected Jerry Rice from Mississippi Valley State. It was reported that the Dallas Cowboys, who had the 17th selection overall, were intending to pick him. In the 1985 season, the 49ers were not as dominant as in 1984, finishing the regular season with a 10-6 record and a wild-card berth. Jerry Rice struggled at times, but he still impressed the NFL in his rookie season for the 49ers in 1985, especially after a 10-catch, 241-yard game against the Los Angeles Rams in December. Rice was named NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year after recording 49 catches for 927 yards, and averaging 19.9 yards per catch. Roger Craig became the first NFL player to gain 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in the same season. In the 1985 playoffs, the 49ers were quickly eliminated from the playoffs by the New York Giants 17-3. In the 1986 NFL season, the 49ers got off to a quick start after a 31-7 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on opening day. But the win was costly. Joe Montana injured his back and was out for 2 months. The injury was to a spinal disc in Montana's lower back and required immediate surgery. The injury was so severe that Montana's doctors suggested that Montana retire. On September 15, 1986, the 49ers placed Montana on the injured reserve list. Jeff Kent became the starting quarterback, and the 49ers went for a €3-1 in September and October. However, Montana returned to the team on November 6 of that year. In his first game back from injury, Montana passed for 270 yards and 3 touchdown passes in a 43-17 49er victory against the St. Louis Cardinals. The 49ers caught fire, winning the next 5 of the final 7 games, including a 24-14 win over the Los Angeles Rams, to clinch the NFC West title. Jerry Rice continued to show improvement from the previous season, catching 86 passes for a league-leading 1,570 yards and 15 touchdowns. Montana was co-recipient of the 1986 NFL Comeback Player of the Year award, which he shared with Vikings quarterback Tommy Kramer. However, the New York Giants would defeat the 49ers again in the playoffs, 49-3 in the team's worst postseason loss to date. Montana was again injured in the first half by a hit from the Giants' Jim Burt. In the off-season, Bill Walsh was concerned about Montana's health going forward, and with no reliable backup at quarterback, he completed a trade for Steve Young, then a quarterback with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. During the strike-shortened 1987 season, the 49ers had become one of the NFL's elite teams once again with a league-best 13-2. Joe Montana had a bounce-back year after suffering from the injuries the previous year and being questioned by the media if he could still produce at a high level by throwing 31 touchdown passes, a career high. He also set the NFL record for most consecutive pass attempts without an incomplete pass, passed for 3,054 yards, and had a passer rating of 102.1. Rice had established himself as an elite receiver. He caught 65 passes for 1,078 yards and a then NFL record 22 touchdowns in just 12 games. 1987 was the second of 6 seasons in which Rice would lead the NFL in receiving and/or touchdown receptions. He was named Offensive Player of the Year. By the end of the regular season, the 49ers were ranked number 1 on both offense and defense and were heavy favorites to win the Super Bowl. However, they were stunned in the NFC divisional round, losing to what was believed to be an inferior Minnesota Vikings team 36-24, their third straight playoff loss in a row. Joe Montana had one of his worst postseason games of his career, and was eventually benched during the game in favor of Steve Young, who scored a rushing touchdown and threw another. After the game, Eddie DeBartolo stripped Walsh of the team president title. Dwight Clark retired that off-season. 1988-89, back-to-back Super Bowls. During the off-season, a quarterback controversy between Joe Montana and Steve Young had begun after Montana's poor performance in the playoffs the previous year. Many speculated that the 1988 season would be his last year with the team. In the 1988 NFL season, the 49ers struggled to start the season. Walsh would constantly switch QBs between Montana and Young. At one point, they were 6-5 and the team was in danger of missing the playoffs. Before Week 11, Ronnie Lott called a players-only meeting. After the meeting, the team came together and defeated the defending Super Bowl champion Washington Redskins in a Monday night game. Montana had fully recovered from his injury and retook the starting quarterback job as the team eventually finished the season at 10-6. They gained a measure of revenge by routing the Minnesota Vikings 34-9 in the divisional playoffs. The 49ers then traveled to Chicago's Soldier Field for the NFC Championship against the Chicago Bears, where the wind chill factor at game time was 26 degrees below zero. However, despite the weather, Joe Montana picked apart the Bears' top-rated defense by scoring 3 touchdowns as the 49ers dominated the Bears with a 28-3 victory, earning the team's third trip to the Super Bowl, to go against the Cincinnati Bengals. In Super Bowl XXIII, despite numerous trips deep into Cincinnati territory by the 49ers, the game was tied 3-3 at halftime. Early in the fourth quarter, Montana tied the score at 13. However, Cincinnati regained the lead on a Jim Breach field goal to put the Bengals ahead 16-13 with just over 3 minutes left on the clock. Following the kickoff, and a holding penalty, the 49ers took over on their 8-yard line with 3:08 left on the clock. Joe Montana began the final drive by stepping into the huddle and remarking to offensive tackle Harris Barton, during a television timeout, "Hey, there's John Candy," as he pointed to the stands on the other side of the field. His calm demeanor reassured the 49ers, and he then engineered what some consider the greatest drive in Super Bowl history, as he drove the team 92 yards for the winning touchdown on a pass to John Taylor with only 34 seconds left, as they captured their third Super Bowl championship with a score of 20-16. Jerry Rice was named Super Bowl MVP. After Super Bowl XXIII, Bill Walsh retired as head coach. His defensive coordinator and hand-picked successor, George Seifert, took over as head coach. In the 1989 NFL season, Joe Montana threw for 3,521 yards and 26 touchdowns, with only 8 interceptions, giving him a 112.4 quarterback rating, which was then the highest single-season passer rating in NFL history, and was named NFL Most Valuable Player. Jerry Rice, in his 5th year in the league, continued to dominate. He led the league with almost 1,490 receiving yards, and 17 touchdowns. The 49ers clinched their 4th straight division title, beating the Los Angeles Rams 30-27 after a dramatic second-half comeback. They finished 14-2, gaining home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Their 2 losses were by a combined 5 points. In the divisional playoffs, they easily defeated the Vikings, 41-13. In the NFC Championship, he played against the Rams for a 3rd time. The previous 2 games were decided by a total of 4 points, but they were able to blow out the Rams 30-3, earning another trip to the Super Bowl, where they defeated the Denver Broncos in relatively easy fashion by a score of 55-10 in Super Bowl XXIV, setting a record for points scored and widest margin of victory in a Super Bowl. Montana himself set many Super Bowl records en route to his 3rd Super Bowl MVP. In winning the Super Bowl, the 49ers became the only team to win back-to-back Super Bowls under different head coaches. This 1989 championship team is often regarded as one of the most dominant teams in NFL history, winning 3 playoff games by a combined 100 points. 1990-93, failed three-peat Steve Young steps in. In 1990, the 49ers won their first 10 games, and they eventually finished 14-2. They ripped through the season, and the coveted 3rd consecutive Super Bowl victory seemed within reach. In the playoffs, the 49ers dispatched the Washington Redskins 28-10, setting up a conference championship game with the New York Giants. Despite not scoring a touchdown in the game, the Giants took advantage of a fourth-quarter injury to Montana and converted a faked punt attempt to thwart the 49ers' attempt at a three-peat. The Giants kicked a last-second field goal after recovering a Roger Craig fumble in the final minutes of the game, winning 15-13 and going on to win Super Bowl XXV. During their quest for a three-peat between 1988 and 1990, the 49ers set a league record with 19 consecutive road victories. Joe Montana missed almost all of the following 2 seasons with a recurring elbow injury. Following the 1990 season, the 49ers left team stalwarts Roger Craig and Ronnie Lott unprotected and let them go to the Los Angeles Raiders via Plan B free agency. In 1991, Steve Young injured the thumb on his throwing hand and later was sidelined with an injured knee. After 10 games, the 49ers had a record of 4-6. Backup quarterback Steve Bono helped the team win its next 5 games with Young sidelined. In the final game of the season, Monday night versus the NFC's number 2 seed, Young returned and the 49ers embarrassed the Chicago Bears 52-14, finishing 10-6. However, the team missed qualifying for the playoffs by virtue of losing the head-to-head tiebreaker to the Atlanta Falcons, which had beaten the 49ers on a last-second Hail Mary pass earlier in the season. The 1992 and 1993 seasons saw a resurgent 49er team under the leadership of Steve Young, but a subpar and aging defense could only take them to the NFC Championship game before falling to the Dallas Cowboys each time. In 1992, Joe Montana came back after missing almost 2 full seasons due to an elbow injury in his throwing arm, and started the second half of a Monday night game versus Detroit on December 28, 1992. With the 49ers clinging to a 7-6 lead, Montana entered the game and looked as though he had not missed a single snap, completing 15-21 for 126 yards and 2 TDs, as the 49ers defeated the Lions 24-6. The 49ers finished the 1992 season with a 14-2 record and home field advantage in the playoffs. San Francisco defeated the Washington Redskins 20-13 in the divisional playoff game, but lost to the Dallas Cowboys 30-20 in the NFC Championship at Candlestick Park. At the end of the 1992 season, partly fueled by media hype, the biggest quarterback controversy in football history was in full swing. After discussions with the owner and the coach, Montana asked for, and was granted, a trade to the Kansas City Chiefs prior to the 1993 season. Despite Eddie DeBartolo wanting Montana to stay and start, Montana realized that he and Young could not stay with the 49ers without a controversy. Montana was later quoted as saying, "If I had stayed and started, there would have been problems. If I had stayed and Steve Young had started, there would have been problems." The 49ers finished the 1993 season, the team's first without Joe Montana on the roster, with a 10-6 record and number 2 seed in the playoffs. San Francisco defeated the New York Giants 44-3 in the divisional playoff game, but lost to the Dallas Cowboys 38-21 in the NFC Championship at Texas Stadium, 1994-98, fifth Super Bowl. In 1994, the team spent large amounts of money on the addition of several star free agents from other teams, including Ken Norton, Jr., Gary Plummer, Ricky Jackson, Bart Oates, Richard Dent, Charles Mann and Deion Sanders. Additionally, several rookie players made key contributions to the team, some becoming season-long starters such as defensive tackle Bryant Young, fullback William Floyd, and linebacker Lee Whittle. Due to injuries to the offensive line, the 49ers had some tough times early in the season, including a 40-8 home loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, and a 24-17 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, led by former 49ers quarterback Joe Montana. Following the Eagles game, a poll conducted on local sports radio station KNBR showed that an overwhelming majority of 49er fans wanted head coach George Seifert fired. The game against the Eagles was a turning point for the 49ers despite the lopsided score. Young was benched in the third quarter and was later seen livid on the sidelines, shouting profanities at Seifert. The following week in Detroit, the 49ers trailed the Lions 14-0. After throwing a pass, Young was hit, picked up, and driven into the ground by 3 Lions defenders. After the hit, Young was screaming with his face dark red in color. He crawled most of the way off of the field before refusing help from the trainers as he limped the remaining way off the field. He miraculously returned to the field one play later to lead the 49ers to a 27-21 victory. The team rallied around Young to win 10 straight games, including a 21-14 victory over the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys. During that span the 49ers' average margin of victory was nearly 20 points per game, a sustained dominance not seen since the 1985 Chicago Bears. Despite scoring only 8 points in one game and 14 in another, the 49ers set a new record for total regular season and postseason combined points scored. That record was later broken by the New England Patriots in 2007. Even after those initial rough spots early in the season, the 49ers finished the season 13-3 and with home field advantage throughout the playoffs. In their first game, they easily defeated the Chicago Bears, 44-15, setting up the third straight 49ers Cowboys NFC Championship game. The 49ers took advantage of 3 early Cowboys turnovers, taking a 21-0 lead in the first quarter. Taking a 31-14 lead into halftime after a perfect 29-yard pass from Young to Rice in the closing seconds, the game appeared to be far out of reach for the Cowboys. A 49er fumble on the opening kick of the third quarter led to a Cowboy score, cutting the lead to 31-21. Later, the 49ers responded with a Steve Young touchdown run, making it 38-21, before the Cowboys scored another touchdown in the final minutes for a final score of 38-28. The convincing win qualified the 49ers for their 5th Super Bowl appearance, and the first to be played by 2 teams from California. The 49ers steamrolled the San Diego Chargers 49-26, and at the time becoming the first team to win a record 5 Super Bowls. With a record 6 touchdown passes, Steve Young was named the game's MVP. Their run of 5 Super Bowl wins in 14 seasons solidified them as one of the all-time greatest NFL teams. The 49ers made the playoffs in 1995 and again in 1996, being eliminated by the Green Bay Packers both times in the divisional round. On January 17, 1997, George Seifert retired as 49ers head coach. On the same day of Seifert's retirement, the 49ers hired Cal head coach Steve Marucci as his replacement. At the time, Marucci only had 1 year of head coaching experience at any level. The first game of the 1997 season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was a disaster, as both quarterback Steve Young and receiver Jerry Rice went down with injuries. Rice appeared to be out for the season with a serious knee injury, while Steve Young left the game with one of the many concussions he suffered throughout his career. However, the team overcame adversity. Steve Young returned 2 weeks later, along with the league's number 1 defense. The 49ers finished the season with a 13-3 record, which included an 11-game winning streak, which was the longest by a rookie head coach at the time, and the 49ers became the quickest team in NFL history to clinch their division at the time. Rice returned for 1.5 quarters in Week 16 against the Denver Broncos, before getting another injury to his knee. In the playoffs, the 49ers defeated the Minnesota Vikings 38-22, advancing to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 1994, where they again met the Green Bay Packers at Candlestick Park, but lost 23-10. During that season, Eddie DeBartolo, Jr. was involved in a corruption investigation regarding Louisiana Governor Edwin Edwards and one of his Mississippi riverboat casinos. DeBartolo later pled guilty to a failure to report a felony charge in 1998. He was suspended from active control of the 49ers for 1 year. His sister, Denise DeBartolo York, and her husband, Dr. John York, took over operations of the team. In 1998, Jerry Rice finally returned from his knee injury Week 1 against the New York Jets, a game best remembered for running back Garrison Hurst's 96-yard touchdown run in overtime to win the game. The 49ers had the second most productive offense in league history. Steve Young, who was questioned if his concussion history would put an end to his career, had his best season throwing for 4,170 yards, 36 touchdowns and only 12 interceptions. A healthy Jerry Rice, third-year player Terrell Owens, and fourth-year player J.J. Stokes became the first WR trio in team history to catch at least 60 passes in the same season. Hurst ran for 1,570 yards and 7 touchdowns while averaging 5.1 yards per carry. The 49ers finished 12-0 for their 16th straight winning season, earning a wildcard berth. Once again, the 49ers faced the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. Things looked bleak when the 49ers trailed 27-23 in the waning seconds. However, in the game's final moment, Young hit Terrell Owens, who was having a terrible game up to that point, on a dramatic, game-winning 25-yard touchdown pass, dubbed by many as the catch-2. That put the 49ers ahead 30-27 with just 3 seconds left on the game clock, sealing the win. After finally beating the Packers, they went on to lose to the eventual NFC champion Atlanta Falcons in the divisional round 20-18, in a game that was marked by Hurst suffering a gruesome broken ankle on the first play from scrimmage. 1999 Euro 2002, ownership change. Eddie De Bartolo returned from his suspension in 1999, but a series of lawsuits over control of the family's vast holdings led him to surrender controlling interest to the Yorks as part of a 2000 settlement. Denise York became chairwoman of the board, while John York became CEO. On the field, the 1999 49ers got off to a 3-1 start, then in a nationally televised Monday Night Football game against the Arizona Cardinals, Steve Young suffered a blindside hit from cornerback Aeneas Williams that eventually convinced him to retire. At the time it was believed the severe hit ended his career, but Young later said in interviews he could have come back to play another season or two. After meeting with then GM Bill Walsh and being told about how the salary cap troubles would make the team non-competitive, Young chose to retire rather than risk his long-term health further for a likely losing club. Without their future Hall of Famer, 29-year-old rookie Jeff Garcia took over as starting quarterback, but he would be benched for poor performances in favor of Steve Stenstrom. Garcia would be reinstated as the starting QB and in the final 5 games of the regular season. The 49ers lost 11 of their last 12 games, and suffered their first losing season in a non-strike year since 1980, which was also the last time that the 49ers did not win at least 10 or more games in a season. Bob McKittrick, 49ers offensive line coach since 1979, also died of cancer following the 1999 season. Before the 2000 NFL season, Jeff Garcia was named the starting quarterback despite the 49ers drafting 2 quarterbacks. Garcia kept the starting job throughout the season and showed drastic improvement from the previous year. He broke a franchise record for most passing yards in one season, with 4,278 passing yards with 31 touchdowns and only 10 interceptions. Garcia and Terrell Owens, who established himself as the team's number 1 receiver, both earned their first Pro Bowl selection. However, the 49ers finished 6-10, missing the playoffs for the second straight season for the first time since 1979 and 1980 due to a defense that gave up 26.4 points per game and a total of 422 points. The 2000 season was the final year for Jerry Rice with the 49ers. He played 16 seasons with the team. In the 2001 NFL season, the 49ers established themselves as a playoff team once again after 2 down years. They finished with a 12-4 record and a wildcard berth. A quarter of their wins came in fourth-quarter comebacks. Their defense also had a bounced-back year, going from the 28th ranked defense in 2000 to the 9th ranked. Terrell Owens had become Jeff Garcia's favorite target, forming their own 49er duo. Garrison Hurst, who was forced to retire from football after breaking his ankle in the 1998 divisional playoffs, finally returned to the lineup after over 2 years of rehabilitation. He became the first player in NFL history to come back to football after suffering a vascular necrosis. He had an excellent season, rushing for 1,206 yards on a 4.8 average. His comeback earned him the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award. In the final 6 weeks of the season, the 49ers defense shut out 3 teams, and had one of the most stupendous goal line stands against the Philadelphia Eagles. In the team's first playoff game in 2 years, he played against Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field in the NFC Wild Card, but lost 25-15. The 2002 NFL season began with a divisional realignment. The 49ers gained 2 divisional rivals, the Seattle Seahawks and Arizona Cardinals, while former divisional foes Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, and Carolina Panthers moved to the newly formed NFC South. The team's production dropped from the previous year. Jeff Garcia went from having 31 and 32 TDs in the previous 2 seasons, to only 21 in 2002. The 49ers defense struggled at times, dropping from the 9th-ranked defense from the previous season, to the 19th-ranked. Even though the team did not have the same success as they did in the 2001 regular season, the 49ers won the NFC West for the first time since 1997, with the division-clinching game coming on a last-second TD pass to Terrell Owens against the Dallas Cowboys. They finished 10-6. In the 2002 NFL playoffs they hosted the New York Giants in the 2002 NFC Wild Card. The Giants had a 38-14 lead late into the third quarter. However, the Giants' defense, which had been highly ranked all year, began to collapse, and by the final minute in the fourth quarter Jeff Garcia had led the team back from the 24-point deficit. Giants QB Kerry Collins then led a drive in the game's final minute to put the Giants at the 49ers' 23-yard line with 6 seconds left for a shot at a game-winning field goal. Trey Duncan, who had been signed by the Giants that week, had a bad snap, so holder Matt Allen attempted a desperate pass down the field, which fell incomplete, but there was a flag on the play. The initial thought by spectators and the Giants was a clear pass interference, but it was to an ineligible receiver, so the game ended like that. Your next day the NFL says the referee blew the call and it was pass interference. A press conference was made and a reporter asked 49ers head coach Steve Mariucci about his thoughts on the NFL, saying they blew the call, and he replied, "Bummer." It was the second biggest comeback victory in NFL playoff history, winning 39-38. The 49ers lost the next week to the eventual Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the divisional round 31-6. This was the last postseason appearance for the 49ers until the 2011 playoffs. Steve Mariucci, whose published statements about his degree of power in the organization had frayed already strained relations with management, was fired by John York, despite a winning record. 2003-10, struggles. Former Seattle Seahawks and Oregon State University head coach Dennis Erickson was signed to a 5-year contract to replace Steve Mariucci. The hiring of Erickson was highly criticized by the fans and the media. Erickson's offensive philosophy was very different from the West Coast offense. The 2003 season was one of turmoil for the 49ers. The relationship between Garcia and Owens turned sour upon Garcia taking issue with Owens's public praise for the play of backup quarterback Tim Rattay. Garcia responded with a cryptic "We cannot let the sickness spread" remark, prompting Owens to wear a surgeon's mask at the following practice. This, and injuries to key players on both sides of the ball and the often reckless play of Jeff Garcia took a toll on him, as he was forced to miss 3 games during the season. The 49ers finished 7-9 and missed the playoffs for the first time in 2 seasons. Despite this disappointing result, Erickson was retained as coach for the 2004 season. The 2003 season also marked the final season for Terrell Owens with the 49ers. His on- and off-field antics led to the 49ers trading him to the Philadelphia Eagles during the off-season. Several other key 49er players were released due to salary cap concerns, including Garcia and Hurst. The team finished the 2004 season last in the NFC West Division with a 2-14 record, tying a franchise worst and finishing last for the first time since 1979, ending what had been the NFL's longest active streak for not finishing last in a division. With the worst record in the NFL, the team secured the rights to the first pick in the NFL draft. Dennis Erickson and GM Terry Donahue were fired. After an extensive coaching search, the 49ers hired the defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, Mike Nolan, as their head coach. Nolan was the son of Dick Nolan, who had led the team to 3 consecutive playoff appearances from 1970 to 1972. The 49ers did not hire a general manager. In Mike Nolan's first draft as head coach, he selected quarterback Alex Smith from the University of Utah with the first overall pick of the 2005 NFL Draft. It was a pick predicted by most, though many thought the 49ers might select local product Aaron Rodgers of the University of California. Alex Smith's rookie season was a disaster, producing only 1 touchdown against 11 interceptions. The team finished 4th in the NFC West for the second consecutive year, with a 4-12 record. This earned the 49ers the 6th pick in the 2006 NFL Draft, which they used to draft tight end Vernon Davis. Alex Smith and the team improved greatly in 2006, led by second-year player Frank Gore from the University of Miami. Gore ran for a franchise record of 1,695 rushing yards, which led the NFC, along with 8 TDs. He was awarded his first Pro Bowl appearance. They also swept division rival and defending NFC champion, Seattle Seahawks, and kept the Denver Broncos from a playoff berth in the last game of the season. However, the team finished 7-9, their fourth consecutive losing season. In the off-season, the 49ers signed cornerback Nate Clements and safety Michael Lewis to improve their secondary. Clements' contract was worth $80 million for 8 years, the largest contract given to a defensive player in NFL history at the time. In the NFL draft, the 49ers made another key addition to their defense, selecting middle linebacker Patrick Willis with the 11th overall pick. Willis would eventually be named the 2007 AP NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. Before the beginning of the 2007 season, Hall of Fame coach Bill Walsh died of complications from leukemia. The 49ers started the season 2-0, for the first time since 1998. In the fourth game of the season, against the Seattle Seahawks, Alex Smith suffered a separated shoulder on the third play of the game, an injury that severely hampered his play and ultimately led to an early end to his 2008 campaign after having shoulder surgery. Chiefly due to backup QB Trent Dilfer's struggles and Alex Smith's injury, the 49ers lost 8 straight consecutive games from Week 3 through Week 12, ending the year with a disappointing 5-11 record. Questions were raised about the future of Alex Smith, whose first 3 seasons had been plagued by inconsistent play, injuries, and never having had the same offensive coordinator from one year to the next. Head coach Mike Nolan and new offensive coordinator Mike Martz stated that a competition between Smith, Shaun Hill, and NFL journeyman J.T. O'Sullivan would run through the first 2 preseason games of 2008. O'Sullivan was named the 49ers starter because of his familiarity with the Martz offense and after performing better than Smith or Hill in the first 3 preseason games. On October 20, 2008, after a 2-5 start, Mike Nolan was fired. Assistant head coach Mike Singletary, a Hall of Fame linebacker with the Chicago Bears, was named as the interim head coach. Singletary proved to be a fan favorite when after his first game as head coach he delivered a memorable post-game interview. Singletary said of their loss, "Right now, we've got to figure out the formula. Our formula. Our formula is this: we go out, we hit people in the mouth." The team went 5-4 overall under Singletary, winning 5 of its final 7 games and ending the season with a 7-9 record. After the last game of the season, Singletary was named permanent head coach by Jed York, who had been appointed as team president just days before. Jed York is the oldest son of John York and Denise DeBartolo York. On April 25, 2009, the 49ers selected Texas Tech Wr Michael Crabtree, a player many people thought would go in the top 5, with the 10th pick in the first round of the 2009 NFL Draft. The 2009 training camp became the first since 2005 that the 49ers failed to have all drafted rookies signed and in training camp on time, as Crabtree held out trying to reach a contract. He finally reached a contract agreement on October 7, 2009, having missed the first 4 games of the regular season. The 49ers posted an 8-8 record after a frustrating season, losing only 2 games by more than a touchdown. Nevertheless, it was the team's first non-losing season since 2002. Despite missing the playoffs for the 7th straight season, several key players showed signs of improvement. Alex Smith regained his role as the 49ers starting quarterback, passing for more than 2,000 yards with 19 touchdowns, while Frank Gore collected his 4th consecutive 1,000-yard season, a 49ers record. Safety Dashon Goldson showed signs of potential in his first year as full-time starter, as he tallied 94 tackles, 4 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 sacks. Vernon Davis in particular had a breakthrough year at tight end, earning Pro Bowl honors with 965 yards and 13 touchdowns. 2010 saw 5 49ers go to the Pro Bowl: Patrick Willis, Vernon Davis, Frank Gore, Justin Smith, and punter Andy Lee. The 2010 season started with the 49ers heavy favorites to win the NFC West after Cardinals QB Kurt Warner retired early in the offseason, but the season was a disaster. They started 0-5, their worst start since the dark days of 1979. In Week 3, the 49ers fired offensive coordinator Jimmy Ray, who had been hand-picked by Singletary in the 2009 off-season. Starting safety Michael Lewis demanded to be released after he was demoted in favor of rookie safety Taylor Mays. By mid-season, Singletary was switching QBs between Alex Smith and Troy Smith, who had been picked up in free agency after the preseason, but with little effect. On December 27, 2010, the 49ers fired Mike Singletary as head coach, naming defensive line coach Jim Tomsula as interim head coach for the last game of the season, where despite crashing the Cardinals 38-7, they finished a sad and disappointing 6-10 and missed the playoffs yet again. 2011 present, arrival of Jim Harbaugh returned to playoffs. On January 4, 2011, Jed York promoted interim general manager Trent Baalke to be the permanent GM. Baalke had taken over the role after former GM Scott McCloughan was relieved of his duties the year before. 2 days later, on January 7, 2011, former head coach of Stanford University Jim Harbaugh was named the 49ers' new head coach. In the 2011 NFL Draft, the 49ers selected defensive end linebacker Aldon Smith from the University of Missouri with the 7th pick of the first round. The 49ers also selected quarterback Colin Kaepernick from the University of Nevada, Reno with the 36th overall pick in the second round. After the end of a labor dispute that nearly threatened to postpone or cancel the 2011 season, the 49ers made a controversial decision to re-sign Alex Smith to a one-year $4.8 million contract. Because of the decision to retain Smith, and a shortened off-season with an entirely new coaching staff being hired, the team was expected to be among the league's worst by NFL prognosticators. Despite this, Harbaugh's first season was a huge success. After 10 weeks the 49ers were 9-1, highlighted by road wins against the Philadelphia Eagles, where the team came back from a 20-point deficit in the second half, and the previously unbeaten Detroit Lions. The 49ers' defense became one of the most intimidating in the league, particularly against the run, not allowing a 100-yard rusher or a single rushing touchdown until Week 16 of the regular season. Alex Smith blossomed in the new system, reviving his career while playing for yet another new offensive coordinator, his 6th in 6 years. In Week 13 the 49ers won the NFC West with a victory against the St. Louis Rams, finally ending their 9-year playoff drought. The 49ers finished the season with a 13-3 record, earning the second overall seed in the NFC playoffs. In the divisional playoffs they defeated the New Orleans Saints 36-32 after a touchdown pass from Alex Smith to Vernon Davis in the closing seconds of the game. The team reached the NFC Championship for the first time since 1997, and faced the New York Giants. They lost to the eventual Super Bowl champions with a 20-17 score in overtime after 2 critical fumbles by backup return man Carl Williams, ending their 2011-2012 season with disappointment but great promise. In 2012, the 49ers were predicted to be the NFC West champions and possibly make a run for the Super Bowl. Starting the season 6-2, the 49ers went on to face the rival St. Louis Rams in Week 10. Alex Smith suffered a concussion in the second quarter and exited the game. He was replaced by 2011 second-round pick Colin Kaepernick, who led the 49ers back to tie the game. The next week, Kaepernick and the 49ers blew out the Chicago Bears 32-7, and Harbaugh chose Kaepernick as the starter next week against the New Orleans Saints, despite Smith being cleared to play. A quarterback controversy began. Despite Smith leading the NFL in completion percentage and passer rating, Kaepernick was considered more dynamic with his scrambling ability and arm strength. Kaepernick eventually started the rest of the season, going 5-2. Kaepernick set the record for rushing yards for a quarterback in the playoffs with 181 rushing yards against the Green Bay Packers. The 49ers defeated the Green Bay Packers and the Atlanta Falcons in the playoffs and advanced to Super Bowl XLVII, but were denied their sixth Super Bowl win against the Baltimore Ravens, who were coached by John Harbaugh, 34-31. Top performers were, passing C.K. Kaepernick €302 YDS, 1 TD, 1 INT. Rushing, F. Gore €19 CAR, 110 YDS, 1 TD. Receiving, M. Crabtree €5 REC, 109 YDS, 1 TD. Another storyline towards the end of the 2012 season was the reliability of kicker David Akers. Towards the end of the season, he began to show signs of decline, missing one field goal from 20-30 yards, 2 field goals from 30-40 yards, and 6 field goals from 40-50 yards for a below-average conversion percentage of 69%. Akers was released on March 6, 2013. Shortly afterwards, the 49ers signed veteran kicker Phil Dawson. The 49ers would also trade a 6th-round draft pick for wide receiver Anquan Boldin from the Baltimore Ravens, the team that had beaten them in the Super Bowl. The 49ers finished 12-4 in the 2013 regular season and entered the playoffs as a wild card, with their first game at Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. On January 5, 2014, San Francisco 49ers defeated Green Bay Packers 23-20. On January 12, 2014, the 49ers defeated the Carolina Panthers 23-10, thus advancing to their third straight NFC championship game. However, the 49ers season ended at CenturyLink Field in Seattle, when a pass intended for Michael Crabtree was tipped by defensive back Richard Sherman and intercepted by linebacker Malcolm Smith, losing to their division rivals and the eventual Super Bowl champions, Seattle Seahawks, 23-17. Championships, Super Bowls. The 49ers have won a total of 5 Super Bowls. They won their first 3 under Bill Walsh. Walsh retired after winning his third in 1988, but first-year head coach George Seifert didn't miss a beat, winning the Super Bowl in his very first year in 1989. He would also win one more in 1994. NFC Championships, Logos and Uniforms. Logo. The original 49ers logo was a mustached 49er gold miner from the 1849 California Gold Rush, dressed in plaid pants and a red shirt, jumping in midair with his hat falling off, and firing pistols in each hand, one nearly shooting his foot, and the other pistol forming the word 49ers from its smoke. An alternate logo with a shield-shaped crest formed from the number 49, with a football in the upper right quadrant and SF in the lower left quadrant was created in 1965 and used for marketing purposes until 1972. From 1962, the 49ers logo has been the iconic SF within the center of a red oval. Throughout the years the logo has had minor modifications, such as a black outlining on the intertwined SF that was added in 1989 and a gold trimming inside the oval that was added in 1996. Uniforms. The evolution of the 49ers uniform, 1946 present. The San Francisco 49ers currently have 2 different uniforms, red and gold home uniforms and white and gold road uniforms. However, the 49ers have changed uniform designs and color combinations quite often throughout their history. From the team's inception in 1946, they wore dark or cardinal red, switching to scarlet red jerseys and gold pants for the 1948 season, with a gold helmet with 1 red stripe, with solid red socks and pants with no stripes. Entering the 1949 season, the first in the NFL, the 49ers adopted 3 stripes to their red jerseys, wearing gold helmets and pants, with no stripes and red socks with 3 white stripes. In the 1953, 54, and 55 seasons, the 49ers wore red helmets with a gold stripe in the middle, with silver pants with 1 single stripe of red. The socks also added the 3 stripes similar to the jerseys. 1955 was also unique in that the 49ers wore white pants with a black stripe bounded by 2 red stripes, and shadow drop numbers on their red jerseys, with black shadow drop borders on the white numerals. The following season, 1956, the team wore white helmets with no stripes, and white pants with a red stripe. In 1957 the 49ers wore red jerseys, a gold helmet with no stripes, and gold pants with no stripes. For the first time the 49ers wore white on the road, as dictated by the NFL for all teams, to have at least one team wearing a light-colored jersey during games. The first white jersey had two red stripes with a gold in the middle, as was their road socks, white, with two red stripes and gold in the middle. San Francisco wore red and gold in 1958 as well, with their white jersey having a single shoulder loop stripe, as well as adding TV numbers to the sleeves of their home and away jerseys. And in contrast to the socks at home, red with three red stripes, the away socks were solid red. In 1959 the team switched to red and platinum gold, and for the next several years afterwards, with their white jerseys having double shoulder loop stripes, but continuing with the three white stripes on the sleeves above the elbow and below the TV numbers, with the red home jerseys. In 1960, the team added northwestern red stripes to their helmets, and that changed in 1962, with the addition of the helmet design the team has mostly worn since, white stripe bounded by two red, with the red oval and SF logo on the sides of the helmet. In 1964 the team's colors then changed again. All silver elements were changed to what was called 49er gold. Helmets were gold. New beige gold pants with a red-white-red tri-stripe in the same style as the helmet were introduced. Uniform's basic design would be worn for practically the next 30 seasons with only some minor changes and adjustments, such as a gradual changeover from sans serif to serifed block numerals from 1970-74 and a switch from thin stripes to a very thick pant striping in 1976. The uniform ensemble of red and white jerseys, and beige gold pants with thick striping were worn until 1995 with a few minor changes. During the 1994 season, many NFL teams wore throwback uniforms on occasional games to celebrate the NFL's 75th anniversary. The 49ers chose to wear a version of their 1955 uniforms as their throwbacks, with simpler sans serif block numerals that were outlined and shadowed in black with white pants with thinner red-black-red striping were also worn, along with the old striped red socks. The regular 1989-95 design gold helmet was worn with this uniform, as there was no logo on the 1955 helmet. In 1996, the 49ers celebrated their 49th anniversary by designing a commemorative jersey patch based on the earlier Shield crest logo. The team also debuted a substantially new uniform design, most notably changing the shade of red used in their jerseys from bright scarlet to a deeper, cardinal red. A black drop shadow effect was added to the jersey numerals. As in 1994, the Niners donned white pants full-time for the 1996 season, though this time the pant stripes were marginally thicker and the colors were reversed to black cardinal red-black. For the 1998 regular season opener, the team switched back to gold pants, with a more metallic gold rather than the previous beige matte gold of the past. The striping along the side of the pants remained black cardinal red-black, though a thin gold trimming was added, along with further oval SF logos placed on both sides of the hip. The 1996 helmet and jersey design with the 1,998 gold pants was worn as the team's regular uniforms until the end of the 2008 season. The 49ers once again changed uniforms in 2009, which are very similar to the classic design, albeit with several significant changes. The sleeve stripes are now set at an angle to accommodate the even shorter sleeves of modern jerseys. A modestly updated 49ers uniform with improved fit, and more breathable and moisture-resistant fabrics was debuted by new league uniform manufacturer Nike on April 3, 2012. These are the team's current uniforms. Cheerleaders and mascot. Cheerleaders. The 49ers official cheerleading squad is called the Gold Rush. Started in 1983, the team typically consists of anywhere from 34 to 40 young female dancers. The Gold Rush have been featured on numerous local and national television shows, including ESPN, Entertainment Tonight, MTV, Extra, The Lisa Show, the Total Football Network, and the FOX Network. The most famous Gold Rush alumnus is Terry Hatcher. Mascot. The 49ers official mascot is Sourdough Sam. He wears jersey number 49. Rivalries. The San Francisco 49ers have three rivals within their division, the St. Louis Rams, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Seattle Seahawks. They also have rivalries with other teams that arose from postseason games in the past, most notably the Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants, and Green Bay Packers. They also have an intense crosstown rivalry with the Oakland Raiders and share an interstate rivalry with the San Diego Chargers. NFC West, Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks have become a new rival of the 49ers, following the NFL's realignment in 2002 that put both teams in the same division. Prior to 2002, the teams played each other almost every season during the preseason, but only every 3 years during the regular season when the AAFC West and NFC West teams faced each other. So far, their rivalry has not been as intense as other division foes because for the most part both teams have not been good at the same time. In the middle to late part of the decade, the Seahawks lost the division and their favorable record against the 49ers reflected this. However, games at CenturyLink Field, one of the toughest stadiums to play at as a visiting team, have still been difficult to win. The 49ers have a 3-7 record all-time at that stadium, with their largest margin of victory there being 10 points, and failed to score a touchdown in 4 of those losses. The rivalry has intensified after the 49ers hired Jim Harbaugh out of Stanford in 2011, as he and Seahawks and former USC head coach Pete Carroll had an intense rivalry in college. Seattle leads the all-time series 16-15 now that on January 19, 2014, the 49ers lost to Seahawks in the NFC Championship game, 17-23. St. Louis Rams. The rivalry between the St. Louis Rams and the San Francisco 49ers is considered by many to be one of the greatest NFL rivalries ever, placing number 8 on Sports Illustrated's Top 10 NFL Rivalries of All Time list, compiled in 2008. Some feel that the rivalry was more intense before the Rams moved from Los Angeles to St. Louis, as it seemed like the rivalry was coming to an end when the Rams relocated. However, some players did not agree. For instance, Roger Craig stated in Tales from the San Francisco 49ers sideline that the Rams will always be the 49ers' biggest rival. It doesn't matter if they no longer play in Los Angeles. If the Rams played their home games on Mars, it would still be a rivalry. In fact, the Rams are the only team to have played the 49ers twice every season for the last 58 seasons to combine for more than 100 regular season games. The all-time regular season lead is held by the 49ers 64-62-3. They have only met once in a playoff game, when the 49ers beat the Rams 30-3 in 1989. Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are a recent growing rival of the 49ers. Unlike most rivalries of this team, the Arizona Cardinals are in the same division as the 49ers. Recently, there has been much bad blood between these two teams' players. An example of this is a Twitter battle between Darnell Dockett of the Arizona Cardinals and Vernon Davis of the San Francisco 49ers. Another clash was when Early Dorsett of the Cardinals and Dashon Goldson of the Niners threw punches at each other. The clash of words between players of both teams, added with the decline of the other major rivalries of the 49ers either from the rarity of meeting the rival teams or the move to different cities, has led to the rivalry between the 49ers and the Cardinals becoming heated and intense. The 49ers currently hold the edge over the Cardinals all-time 26-17. Battle of the Bay rivalry, Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders, located on the other side of San Francisco Bay, are the 49ers' geographic rivals. The first exhibition game played in 1967, ended with the NFL 49ers defeating the AFL Raiders 13-10. After the 1970 merger, the 49ers won in Oakland 38-7. As a result, games between the two are referred to as the Battle of the Bay. Since the two teams play in different conferences, regular season matchups are at least every 4 years. Fans and players of the winning team can claim bragging rights as the better team in the area. The all-time regular season series is currently tied with 6 wins for both teams. San Francisco won the latest matchup 17-9 on October 17 in Week 6 of the 2010 regular season. The next game between the two will be in 2014. On August 20, 2011, in the third week of the preseason, the preseason game between the rivals was marked by fights in restrooms and stands at Candlestick Park, including a shooting outside the stadium in which several were injured. The NFL has decided to cancel all future preseason games between the Raiders and 49ers. Historic rivals. The rivalry between the Dallas Cowboys and the 49ers has been going on since the 1970s. The NFL Top 10 ranked this rivalry to be the 10th best in the history NFL. San Francisco has played Dallas in 7 postseason games. The Cowboys defeated the 49ers in the 1970 and 1971 NFC Championship games, and again in the 1972 divisional playoff game. The 1981 NFC Championship game in San Francisco, which saw the 49ers' Joe Montana complete a game-winning pass to Dwight Clark in the final minute, is one of the most famous games in NFL history. The rivalry became even more intense during the 1992-1994 seasons. San Francisco and Dallas faced each other in the NFC Championship game 3 separate times. Dallas won the first 2 matchups, and San Francisco won the third. In each of these pivotal matchups, the game's victor went on to win the Super Bowl. Both the Cowboys and the 49ers are second all-time in Super Bowl victories to the Pittsburgh Steelers with 5 each. The 49ers-Cowboys rivalry is also part of the larger cultural rivalry between California and Texas. In recent years, this once great rivalry has greatly softened, with the recent struggles of both the Cowboys and 49ers. However, in its prime, especially in the 1990s, this rivalry was a very bitter one as both teams were the class of the NFL during this time. The all-time series is tied at 16-16-1, which includes a postseason record of 2-5. The New York Giants have the most playoff meetings versus the 49ers. This rivalry is rooted in the 1980s when both teams were on the rise. In the first 2 playoff meetings between these two teams, the Joe Montana-led 49ers won both meetings, 38-24 in 1981 and 24-10 in 1984, both in the divisional round at Candlestick Park. The 49ers went on to win their first 2 Super Bowl championships both seasons. The Giants won the next 3 playoff meetings, which included a 49-3 rout at Giants Stadium in 1986, and the 1990 NFC Championship, where they upset the 49ers 15-13, ruining the 49ers' hopes of a Super Bowl three-peat after Roger Craig lost a fumble late in the fourth quarter and let the Giants score on a last-second field goal. Giants also went on to win their first 2 Super Bowl championships both seasons. The 49ers defeated the Giants 44-3 in 1993 in the divisional round. In the 2002 NFC wildcard game, the Giants were ahead 38-14 late in the third quarter. However, the 49ers came back from the 24-point deficit to beat the Giants with a 39-38 victory. The teams met again in the 2011 NFC Championship at Candlestick Park, and just like the 1990 NFC Championship, it was a low-scoring game. The Giants won the game on a Lawrence Tynes 31-yard field goal in overtime, 20-17. In an eerie similarity to Roger Craig's fumble 21 years earlier, Carl Williams fumbled a punt in the crucial minutes of the game, and just like the last 2 times the Giants beat the 49ers in the playoffs, they went on to win the Super Bowl. The all-time series is led by the Giants with a record of 15-14, and includes a postseason record of 4-4. The Green Bay Packers rivalry emerged in the mid-1990s when the Packers upset the 49ers in the 1995 NFC divisional game at Candlestick Park, ending any chance of a Super Bowl repeat. From that point, the Packers beat the 49ers 4 more times, including 2 postseason games. San Francisco was finally able to exact revenge in the 1998 NFC Wild Card round, a game that is remembered for a 25-yard game-winning touchdown reception by Terrell Owens off a Steve Young pass, lifting the 49ers over the Packers 30-27. Since that game, the Packers had beaten the 49ers 8 straight times, including once in the 2001 postseason, a streak that came to an end in the 2012 season when the 49ers beat the Packers in Lambeau Field Week 1 for the first time since 1990, and again in the NFC divisional game that same season. The 49ers trail the all-time series with a record of 30-34-1, which includes a postseason record of 3-4. The New Orleans Saints were division rivals with the 49ers up until realignment in 2002 when the Saints were placed in the newly formed NFC South. The 49ers dominated the rivalry when the Saints played in the NFC West, but the Saints have held the upper hand since realignment, winning the first 6 games since moving to the NFC South. They met most recently in the divisional round of the 2011 playoffs at Candlestick Park. There were 4 lead changes in the final 4 minutes of the game, culminating with Alex Smith throwing the game-winning touchdown to Vernon Davis with 9 seconds left. 3 months after that game, it was revealed that then Saints defensive coordinator Greg Williams ordered his players to target certain players in certain areas in a profanity-laced speech as part of the bounty scandal prior to that game. The 49ers lead the all-time series with a record of 47-24-2, which includes a postseason record of 1-0. The Atlanta Falcons were also division rivals with the 49ers until the Falcons moved to the NFC South in 2002 after the realignment. Just like the Saints, the 49ers had dominated the Falcons when they played in the NFC West, but the Falcons have won 4 straight against the 49ers since moving to the NFC South. Both teams met in the divisional round of the 1998 playoffs, when Garrison Hurst suffered an ankle break when his foot was caught in the Georgia Dome turf and twisted severely as he tried to spin away from Falcons defensive end Chuck Smith on the first play from scrimmage. 49ers lost that game 20-18. They met in the 2012 NFC Championship, in which the 49ers, led by quarterback Colin Kaepernick, defeated the top-seeded Falcons in Atlanta by a score of 28-24. The all-time series is led by the 49ers with a record of 46-30-1, and includes a postseason record of 1-1. Season-by-season records. New stadium in 2014. On November 8, 2006, reports surfaced that the 49ers ended negotiations with the city of San Francisco about building a new stadium and plan to do so in Santa Clara, 38.3 miles south of the team's current home field, Candlestick Park in San Francisco. Santa Clara already hosts the team's administrative headquarters and training facility. The Hawks and then San Francisco Mayor Gavin Newsom had been talking over the last few months about building a privately financed stadium at Candlestick Point that was intended to be part of the city's bid for the 2016 Summer Olympics. The 49ers' final decision to move the stadium ended the San Francisco bid for the 2016 Summer Olympics. San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Chicago were the 3 cities competing to be the U.S. Olympic Committee's choice to bid on the 2016 Games, with Chicago emerging as the eventual victor. The team's current lease at Candlestick Park could extend through 2013. The 49ers sponsored Measure J, which appeared on the June 8, 2010 Santa Clara, California ballot, to build a new stadium as the future home of the San Francisco 49ers in that city. The measure passed with 58.2% of the total vote. This was seen as the first step for the 49ers stadium relocation to a new venue to be built in Santa Clara. The 68,490-seat, Levi's Stadium, landed rights for its first event. The stadium will be home to the Fight Hunger Bowl. On the 49ers website, the team's owner, businessman John York had a letter stating that after a stadium is constructed in Santa Clara, the team would retain its name San Francisco. York will use the SF brand because the team will continue to represent San Francisco and the entire San Francisco Bay Area. In addition, York wants to keep the team's legacy and marketability intact. In the history of the NFL, teams who have made a significant relocation embraced the city community support for its stadium and name change. In this case, the stadium relocation to Santa Clara is not considered a significant move. United States Senator Dianne Feinstein and other leaders threatened an attempt to prevent the team from using San Francisco, or the 49ers in the team name, but probably would not have succeeded without changes to state or federal law. York later confirmed in a press conference on November 9, 2011, that the team would build a new state-of-the-art stadium in Santa Clara in time for the 2014 season. Groundbreaking for the new stadium took place on April 19, 2012. On May 8, 2013, the NFL San Francisco 49ers announced that Levi Strauss & Company had purchased the naming rights to their new stadium in Santa Clara, California. The naming rights deal calls for Levi's to pay $220.3 million to the city of Santa Clara and the 49ers over 20 years, with an option to extend the deal for another 5 years for around $75 million. Players and personnel, current roster, Pro Football Hall of Famers, Boulder inducted as a 49er. Retired numbers. During his tenure with the 49ers from 2006-07, quarterback Trent Dilfer, a longtime friend of Brody, wore number 12 with his permission, unofficially unretiring the number as a tribute. 49ers in the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, Bill Walsh, head coach, 1979-88, Buck Shaw, head coach, 1946-54, Eddie DeBartolo, Jr., owner, 1979-2000, 12 John Brody, QB, 1957-73, 14 Y.A. Tittle, QB, 1952-60, 16 Joe Montana, QB, 1979-92, 16 Frankie Albert, QB, 1946-52. Head coach, 1956-58, 16 Jim Plunkett, QB, 1976-77, 32 O.J. Simpson, RB, 1978-79, 33 Roger Craig, RB, 1983-90, 34 Joe Perry, RB, 1949-60, 1963, 35 John Henry Johnson, RB, 1954-56, 37 Jimmy Johnson, CB, 1961-76, 39 Hugh Mulhenny, RB, 1952-60, 42 Ronnie Lott, CBS. 1981-90, 64 Dave Wilcox, LB, 1964-74, 73 Leo Molini, Delaware, 1949-63, 79 Bob Street Clare, T, 1953-63, 80 Jerry Rice, WR, 1985-2000, 82 Gordy Soltau, WR, 1949-58, 84 Brent Jones, TE, 1987-1997, 49ers Hall of Fame, the Edward J. DeBartolo, Senior 49ers Hall of Fame is the team's official Hall of Honor for the franchise's greatest players. As of late 2013, the inductees are 49er 10-Year Club. The 10-Year Club is a shrine that honors members of the San Francisco 49ers who played 10 or more seasons with the organization, and is suspected to have been started by Bill Walsh to recognize players that have shown longevity, success and consistency. Each member is shown in a black and white photo on a scarlet and gold plaque with their name under the photo and the years in which they played. A plaque placed in the center of the photos of club members reads, 49er 10-Year Club. Dedicated to those 49ers, who have served 10 or more years proudly wearing the scarlet and gold. Achievements, individual awards, radio and television. The 49ers flagship radio stations are KSAN 107.7 Fathoms, KNBR 680 AM, and KTCT 1050 AM. KSAN airs all 49ers games on FM. On AM, they are simulcast on KTCT in August, September, and October and on KNBR from October to the end of the season. All three stations are owned by Cumulus Media. Joe Starkey, best known as the voice of the University of California and the play, was previously the color commentator on the broadcasts next to legendary announcer Lon Simmons in 1987 and 1988 and took over as lead commentator in 1989. Lon Simmons and Gordy Soltau did the broadcasts on KSFO in the 1949s and 1960s. For a brief period in the late 1970s and early 1980s, Don Klein, the voice of Stanford, did the 49ers games. Starkey first teamed with former Detroit Lions and KPIX sports director, Wayne Walker, and then former 49ers linebacker Gary Plummer formed the broadcast team from 1998 to 2008, with Starkey retiring after the 2008 season. Ted Robinson replaced Starkey and teamed up with Plummer for the 2009 and 2010 seasons. Plummer was relieved of his color commentating duties for the 2011 season and replaced by former teammate Eric Davis. Most preseason games are telecast on KPIX, Channel 5, with announcers Dennis O'Donnell and Tim Ryan. The 49ers are a beneficiary of league scheduling policies. Both the 49ers and the Oakland Raiders share the San Francisco Bay Area market, and said market is on the west coast of the United States. This means that the 49ers cannot play home games or most division games in the early 10:00 a.m. Pacific time slot, nor can they play inter-conference home games at the same time or network as the Raiders. As a result, both teams generally have more limited scheduling options, and also benefit by receiving more primetime games than usual. Thus, regardless of the previous season's record, the 49ers receive a disproportionate number of Sunday night, Monday night and/or Thursday night games, compared to the rest of the league. San Francisco 49ers radio broadcasters history, radio affiliates. San Francisco 49ers preseason TV broadcasters history, see also. San Francisco 49ers draft history, references. External links, official website, San Francisco 49ers at Pro Football Reference.